everyone. On February 3rd, about 65 of my coworkers and I were furloughed from our work at CWS Lancaster. In that work, we help the world's most vulnerable refugees from the world's hardest hit humanitarian disasters find safety and a new life in our beautiful city and county. On January 20th, our entire world came to a stop. First, by an executive order that froze all flights from refugees indefinitely, 14 flights that were headed here to Lancaster. Wow. Then 4 days later, an immediate stop work order that said we weren't allowed to provide services for clients already here. Somebody arrived one day before the inauguration and they were told no more services for you, the government isn't going to take care of their responsibilities. On top of that, the administration, as they so often do, has refused to pay for services already rendered, essentially starving the refugee program in America. And the same is true at all the other 9 refugee resettlement agencies in this country. Today, I don't claim to speak on behalf of my coworkers furloughed and still working. Instead, I want to speak about them. They are some of the most talented people I've ever worked alongside. Together, they speak over 30 languages, come from every corner of the globe, are members of all faith traditions and no faith traditions. And I tell you, when things hit the fan, it's these folks you want answering the call. When Kabul fell suddenly in August of 2020, I watched some of my colleagues be the first to ship out to military bases all over the country to help begin to process the folks evacuated out of that country. I saw other colleagues create the most impressive coordinated effort I've ever seen. They resettled the same number of people in a 3-month period that they would normally resettle in a year's time. I want to make sure to say this because they were able to do that. We are able to do that because of this community. You make this work happen because you support this mission and you want to make Lancaster a welcoming place. That's what they're attempting to take away from us. That's why it's so perverse that on day 1 of this administration, the people I work with, the values we share as our community, the life-saving work we do was the very first target of this administration. Not grocery prices, not affordable housing. No, the most pressing matter was for the administration was to deny a legal pathway to the U.S. to people who have faced the most terrible situations imaginable. That's why I feel I understand the pain of these federal workers who have been laid off. These folks, park rangers, cancer researchers, homelessness service providers, these folks followed their higher calling and decided to do this in service to us all. We take pride in our work and what it means for our larger society because refugees and immigrants aren't the only ones who benefit from safety in Lancaster. Our community does. From where I stand, you can see their contributions. Tellus 360, Southern Market has 6 stands with immigrants. Everywhere around here, Himalayan, everything. We are what we are because of these refugees. Over the last month or so, many of my colleagues, former refugees, faith groups, and everyday community members have appealed to our elected officials to do something. We've met with Congressman Smucker and Senator Fetterman to explain what's happening, and I don't want to let him off the hook either. We're here for Congressman Smucker, but Senator Fetterman is letting us down in the exact same ways, maybe worse. Having lived my entire life in Lancaster County and been so often lectured about the importance of constitutional government and checks and balances, I was sure that our congressman and senator would be outraged by these funding freezes. After all, the duly elected members of Congress voted to allocate these funds, and it's a brazen violation of those sacred checks and balances, and it's for the president to cut willy-nilly just because he decides to.
It's illegal.
What I found was no such outrage. I got enthusiastic form letters talking about what a great job the new admin had been doing. We have dropped over 1,500 postcards to these folks, emails every single day, in-person meetings, and still not so much as a public statement about the suffering of our neighbors, about the suffering of the refugees who can't come here, and about people losing their jobs. Did you know that Pennsylvania has lost more jobs under this administration than any state? 62,000 people have lost their jobs in Pennsylvania in the last 2 months alone. That's a crisis. When I told them about the imminent crisis our refugee friends face, especially those who aided the U.S. mission in Afghanistan, and how they are a few short weeks away from being sent back to the Taliban, I was sure that no human being, whether they're a representative, Republican, Democrat, or anything, could possibly hear that and still do nothing. But I think we've had to all reset our expectations lately. I think we've all had to adjust to a new normal where someone could hear about these brave folks and do nothing. I stood in this exact spot 3 Sundays ago and I said they aren't coming to help us. Our elected officials, Congressman Smucker, Senator Fetterman, they aren't coming to fix this. They know, they're given daily reminders of what is happening, and they are doing nothing. They don't care that 70 people are out of work. They don't care that PA is losing more jobs than any other state. They don't care that our brave allies must suffer at the hand of the Taliban. They won't lift a finger to help. They are proud of what's going on. This is what they want. Do your job! Do your job! Do your job! Do your job! I say this not because I believe they will suddenly find a backbone or concern to do anything about it. I say, and we say it, we're here today, and I hope for many Saturdays to come, so that we can serve as a reminder that they had the power to do something, and they didn't. So that later on down the road, when these issue mealy-mouthed excuses about not knowing, we can be a standing testament to make sure they don't get away with that fabrication. So that we can say, we told you loudly, consistently, every single day to represent us, and you made the choice not to. You abandoned your community, left, right, and center, and we won't acquiesce to a system that does this over and over and over with no consequences. We need new leaders. This is not the opposition. This is the future leadership of our government.
We won't forget. We won't forget. We won't forget.
I will give you one bit of good news before I go, because we need it. Refugee resettlement agencies sued regarding the sudden cancellation of our programs, and while it's still playing out in the federal judiciary, the judges have stepped in where our spineless reps haven't. They have ruled that this is a clear overreach and that the admin needs to pay what we're owed. Right. Just our organization is owed $50 million for services already rendered. Wow. Just understand that. They haven't, of course, but at least we know there's someone standing up for American values. And while it has also meant that some people have lost their jobs permanently, I'm happy to say that some of the CWS workers are heading back to work, and we are going to fight to make sure that Lancaster stays the refugee capital of this nation. We're going to fight to make sure that your spirit of welcome is represented every single day, and whatever it looks like, we know that you have our backs, and we can't appreciate that more. Thank you so much.
Let's give a hand to all of our speakers again today. To wrap things up today, I'd like to take a moment to discuss what we can do next. First, call your legislators every day if you can. 5 calls app makes it easy. Let them know you're still watching. Share your story or stories that you've heard today on social media. People need to hear the real-life impact Trump, Musk, and Smucker are having on real people in Lancaster. Tag the media. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Get them involved. Bring them to our next action. Indivisible Manheim Township's next action is on Saturday, March 29th, to educate our community and take action in defense of our public schools. Federal funding cuts threaten all of our county's schools. This event is on March 29th from 10 to 11:30 at the Manheim Township Public Library. If we hit our in-person cap, we will zoom you in. We'll make it happen. Visit Mobilize or the Indivisible MT Facebook page for more information. On Tuesday, March 25th, please vote in the special election. That's if you live in the 36th Senatorial District. This is for James Malone. Iowa just flipped a plus 21 district, and we can do it too. This would bring us just 2 seats away from controlling both chambers of the PA General Assembly. So tell your friends to go out and vote. A lot of folks don't know this election's coming up. Use your vote. Also, Indivisible and 5051 and other national organizations are holding a National Day of Action on April 5th with rallies around the country, so save the date. Finally, Power Interfaith is hosting an Education Justice Town Hall with Representative Izzy Smith-Waddell and Representative Nikki Rivera on Sunday, April 27th at 4 p.m. at Church of the Apostles, UCC. Education funding at the state level is going to be all the more important this year, so please consider attending. We do have flyers for all these events up front if you want to take a look. We know none of this is easy, but if you're here, you know that standing on the sidelines accomplishes nothing. As Rachel Maddow said earlier this week, every single time you don't try, you lose. But sometimes, when you try, you win. It's the reason it's worth trying. So together we are strong, together we can and will continue to demand better, and together we can make sure our government works for all of us and not just the richest few. That's right. Woo! So thank you for standing up today, and let's keep fighting.